If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Truth We Hide podcast. It is Annette, your host, and I'm super excited, like I always am with every guest, because I just love the fact that, even through this pandemic, we are still able to meet incredible people virtually, and it's people like Swadhin that puts herself out there to help other people. She is an entrepreneur, a mental health coach, a speaker, and an author. And she life coaches. She has been sharing her story as a trauma survivor of domestic violence that got her into that dark place of depression and anxiety. But she has been sharing her story to help other people. And you know me, I love finding other like-hearted and like-minded people who are in this space because I know it's so hard. So I'm really excited to meet her. She's actually calling us from Dubai. I am so thankful and grateful for her. So Swadhin, thank you so much for being out here. Thank you for reaching out. Please share your story with us because I know already that it's just going to be full of positivity and light. So thank you so much.
No, first of all, thank you, Annette, for this space. It's so sacred what you've built here. So thank you so much for allowing me into it and giving me the chance to, actually share my story and my journey. Thank you so much. I appreciate it so much. Like I said, I'm truly grateful for this and to you. And if, circumstances were different and if you were face to face, I would be giving you all the positive energy physically. So other than everything that you said, I am a trauma survivor of domestic violence. It started when I was really, really young, and my abusers were my parents. My father was my physical abuser, and my mother was my mental abuser. I began realizing the whole part that this abusive nature isn't normal when I was about 10. I began realizing that my body was just not being able to take what they were doing to me. My mind was not being able to take whatever they were doing to me. And I would try to think like, oh, maybe, they're trying to discipline me, because a little backstory is that my parents were both immigrants. My parents were both, not where they were or not where their culture is. So I was born and raised in the UK. And I come from 3 different cultures. I am quarter Hispanic, half Bangladeshi, and half Palestinian. So my world, and I say world because my cultures are so separate from one another, but the one thing that remained at the roots of it, which is the most disheartening thing till date, is the stigma about mental health, is the stigma about anything that is negative. There was always that positive inclination towards everything negative that was happening. And that was heartbreaking for me as a child, because not only was I a third culture kid growing up in a world that was so different, but that was all I knew, and at home where I don't exactly remember when exactly it started, like I said, but it was just that every day that I began understanding and became more aware of my emotions as a child, as an individual, my bruises on my body, the bruises that were my wounds on a mental state, were becoming harder and harder to deal with. I remember at the age of 11, I started diving into self-harm, and I wasn't proud of it. I wasn't happy about it. And I remember reaching out to my mother, and she herself was suffering from depression and suicidal tendencies herself, but she didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to get help. What she wanted to do was take it out on me, project it on me. And I just was that sponge in my family that started soaking up everything, the good and the bad. But the bad became so much that I just couldn't look at the good anymore. I just really couldn't. So when I reached out to my mother and I told her that, you know, this is what I'm going through. I keep going to these dark places and I feel like hurting myself because my dad is doing this to me. You're doing this to me. And all she said was, okay, do it. Who cares? If that's what you want to do it. You know, you're like, are you trying to get my attention? Because this is not getting my attention. And the saddest thing is that at that point, when I did reach out to her, I did self-harm one time, Annette, and I felt so bad because as a child going through everything that I was going through, I had to grow up way too much. So my awareness as an individual was way higher than any other child of my age. And that guilt of hurting myself just hurt me so much that I felt like if I told my mom, she would help me, you know, get out of that muddy situation that I pulled myself in, that I threw myself in. But what she said broke my heart. And I continued with self-harm because I had nothing else to replace the pain that I was being put through every day. And it was every day. My parents would fight. And the problem is that today I understand that what they did was because of their own trauma, because of their own wounded, you know, children that was in them that they couldn't heal. But it left me so scarred for such a long time. And everything that happened in their life, their past, they were projecting it onto me for, I don't know how to say it, but like, it gave them that satisfaction that, you know what, we're going to project it onto her. And maybe this is the way she's going to become strong for the world. But that's not what it did to me. I kept at it. I tried to find ways to not do self-harm. And so after my mom said that to me, it broke my heart. And I just felt like, that's it. I don't have anything else to really hold on to. So what I did was just go back to self-harming. And the worst part of it all was that being a 10-year-old, I was so aware because of everything that was going on in my life. I was so aware in comparison to every other kid. So there was a lot of guilt of the fact that I was self-harming myself. And that guilt didn't really stop me, but it just added on to my mental health. I was now just going through this roller coaster of emotions where I didn't want to be at home because I felt constant pain and I couldn't focus on anything that I was doing. The things that I had like complete passion towards, they were beginning to slip away. At that age, the only thing that sort of kept me going and what didn't push me off the edge, to say, was the fact that I still had music, because I had nothing else to express. I had music and I had writing, and those were the things that sort of helped me still stay in this world, you know. But one day, things just snapped for me, and that was the last straw for me. I was, I think, 15, and my father came home. He was very frustrated. About what? I don't know, because he was frustrated every time he came home. And my parents weren't really there to raise me, you know, so it was mostly just me and my younger sibling most of the time, just us. But when they did come home, which was, I wouldn't say as frequent, but when they were home, it was bad. Even when they weren't home, that fear that they left with the damage that they did would just stay. That night particularly though, my father came home and I got him a glass of drink that he usually needs to help him calm down and stay, you know, all right. And it was my birthday. That night was my birthday. And like every other birthday, I just wanted to be somewhere else. But at that age, I had learned long ago that my birthdays were not meant for me to be happy. They were meant for my mother and my father to constantly remind me how grateful I should be for the life that they have given me. And even though it was a horrible life, I still had to be grateful about it. That night, something ticked off my father even more. So his glass was not full as he wanted it to be. And he got angry and he lashed at me. And the next thing I knew, I was against a wall and there were punches being thrown at me, kicks being thrown at me, and I was bleeding. I was bleeding, and my 15-year-old body just couldn't keep up with it. But I was already, with the years of abuse, I had already become so bruised that this pain didn't feel like, oh, okay, I'm going to die. So there was still moments where I felt like, okay, this is going to pass. I just have to keep, pushing through it. I just need to be resilient at this time. He's going to hit me and he's going to be done. But he didn't stop. He went and he grabbed a cricket bat and he started hitting me with the bat until it broke. So the broken pieces started going into me. And even at that point, I kept telling myself, it's fine. It's not the first time he's using things on me. And I stopped crying because I knew the more I gave him the satisfaction of the fact that he's putting me through pain, I began realizing it would just fuel him further to be like, stop crying, because he didn't want to feel the guilt. That's the thing. When you're the abuser, you don't want to feel the guilt that you're really doing this. You just want to project whatever you need to project. But after that, when I had sort of shut myself down emotionally and mentally, and I told myself, I'm not going to cry anymore. I'm not going to give this man the satisfaction. He went and he grabbed my mom's heel. It was the sharpest heel, and he began stabbing me. And my left eye, I still have, I don't know if you can see it, but I still have like there's a mark that still reminds me of that day. I was bleeding. I couldn't see from my left eye for a really, really long time. And it was to that point that my younger sibling, my little brother, he was in the room. He saw me and he froze. My mom stood there and she watched all of this, by the way. She did not once tell him to stop. She just stood there and she just stood there, nothing else, no emotion. And when he was done and he noticed that, like, I'm not moving, I'm not crying, I'm not giving him that satisfaction anymore, because I was just like, at that point I thought, he's stabbing me, he's trying to kill me, and I'm going to die. And at that point I just thought, this is going to get over soon. I'm going to be done with it. I don't have to live with this anymore for the rest of my life. There was that satisfaction that I was feeling. I thought that would be the end of it. But that did not happen. And I was in pain, and I was just at the corner of that huge living room. And the only people that I could see were the people who did not want me here, who just it's not like they didn't even want me, but they only wanted me to project their, trauma of the past that they couldn't deal with. And right that second, my brother started crying, and that triggered my mom. And my mom was like, we have to take her to the hospital. And the funny thing is, my dad says, no, we can't take her to the hospital because the police will ask questions. And I don't want them to know that it was me. And I'm just sitting there, I'm bleeding the F out. And they're arguing about whether I even deserve to go to the hospital or not. Finally, my mom's like, if she's going to bleed out here otherwise. And my dad was like, okay, but make sure that she just doesn't tell anyone anything. And my mom takes me, and we are at the door of the hospital, at the ER entrance. And she just tells me one thing. She's like, make sure you do not tell anyone that it was your dad. And it broke my heart. She didn't tell me anything else. She could have said a million other things to at least tell me I'm sorry that this happened to you, or tell me that I wish I could have done something. anything motherly, anything human. But no, it was just that, don't tell anyone that was your dad. And she didn't even come with me into the hospital. I went by myself. And I still remember the regret of that day till now, because I lied for them. I lied for my mum. I lied for my dad. When the police asked me who did this to me, I just lied. And it haunted me for a few years. After that, things snapped in me because nobody came to see me in the hospital, Annette. Nobody did. And when I came out, I made a decision to myself that I'm going to leave this place. I'm going to leave this unsafe environment because I did not deserve it. I was a straight A student. I was full of talents. I was full of skills. I knew I had a good heart, and I knew I had passion for things that could actually bring good change. And I knew that there were people whom perhaps, even though I thought that I was going through the worst thing, are perhaps going through even worse things than me in life out there. And I just wanted to make sure that nobody else ever went through what I did. That was my motivation. 1 year after that incident, I left home. I never looked back. I got into the desired university that I wanted, and I was working odd jobs all along. You know, despite the abuse, despite everything, the one thing that kept me going was that I knew one day it's going to get better. And I don't know where I found that courage as a young child, but I knew it's going to get better. And I knew that the only way for me to sort of, you know, write it out was to find other things to do while not, you know, try to spend as less time as possible at home. So I had enough money. I had to, you know, eat food and pay my tuition fees. But other than that, I was homeless for, I think, 3 months straight after I left home, and nobody searched for me. And when I did try to get in touch with them to ask them, like, why? I'm your daughter. I'm blood. What they said was that this is a lesson that they're trying to teach me, that I'm not going to get anywhere in life without them. I will always need them. And I'm very proud to say that today I'm at a place where I don't. I was 16 when I left home, and I never looked back. And I've done things that I'm so grateful for. And I know genuinely I have not just healed the inner child in me, but I'm helping every inner child that I recognize. So that's basically it.
Oh my gosh. I'm just speechless. For you to be able to stand up for yourself at 15 and leave home at 16, that's incredible. I mean, it's incredible strength. It's powerful because, you know, when you are told that over and over that you need them, that you can't be without them, you know, that could really, not every kid could walk away from that because they truly believe it. And so what did they treat your brother the same? What happened to your brother when you left?
So my brother, the reason why my brother went through mental abuse, but he didn't go through the physical abuse as much as I did. The reason, because my father, he is Bangladeshi, and in his culture from a very long time ago, having a girl is a bad thing, is a bad omen. So I was like a walking, talking reminder of that bad omen that his so-called family believed. So no, my brother didn't have to go through half the things that I had to go through, but he was projected to it because every time, whatever they did to me, they did it to him. They did it to me in front of my brother. So it was like a conditioning that they did to him that, you know what, if you cross us any other time at any point, this is going to happen to you. But we still love you, you know, we're not going to do this to you. But if you do something that we don't agree with, this is what's going to happen. So, yeah.
It's really, I think as I've gotten older, it's such an eye-opening experience because now our cultures are so different, and people, unless we're educated, we just don't know. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And we are just we're blinded by it because we don't know what we don't know, but it's just so unfortunate. And I'm so sorry that you went through that. I can't imagine, but I am so glad that you got out of it and you came out of it stronger. It's
Thank you.
it is just I'm just speechless right now. I just can't. And the thing that you mentioned before, there might be other people that have it way worse. That's such a powerful statement because especially as a young kid to be able to think like that, it took me over 40 years to think like that. To think, okay, maybe I need to step back a minute and appreciate what I have because other people might have it worse. That's so hard to do because when we're in the moment, it's all about us and our situation. It's not about anybody else. So
Yeah.
it is so difficult to have that mindset. But
I think for me, having that mindset at that time, it wasn't, it was like the reverse domino effect of what my parents were doing to me.
right.
Because, like I said, in everything, there's good and bad, right? And I did see the good in my parents. I did, because I really tried to see.
Yeah.
Every time that they hurt me, I would try so hard to find like good memories or try to see the good that they're doing. Even if it's like my mom making food for me, that one day I'll be like, okay, she made food for me. She made something that I actually liked. And it would make me question, like, they're not doing this to me because they want to. They're doing this to me because they didn't get the help. And I didn't get the help, and I saw the road that I was going to. This is why I say that I am so grateful that I was aware at that age to know that, okay, this is what's happening to me. Even though it was like a slower development, and maybe I would have left the situation much earlier if I was a little more aware intensively. But I wasn't. But the amount that I had, and I still do have that sympathy, that empathy towards my abusers, because at the end of the day, they were people. They were people who were wounded beyond words can explain. And I left them. I don't know who else now will give them the support that they need, or, recognize that there's something with them that needs to be addressed. And that still hurts me today
Yeah.
because they were blood at the end of the day. But I don't know. I really don't know where that awareness was when I was young, but it got me going and it got me here.
And so now you're here today and you are in that place to where you can share it in order to help other people.
Yeah.
And that's I think that's a very powerful thing. It is so hard to come out of it on the other side and and as you're going through your own self-healing journey, help other people. I mean, I know, for me it took me many years, decades to be able to do that, but I think now that we have found our people per se, other people who have gone through their trauma, it's
Yeah.
like we have our own little family because we are here
Yeah.
with each other now, and to tell everybody that you're not alone. And
Yeah.
I think that's it makes such a huge impact. And I mean, I'm sure you have made huge impacts on people's lives, and it's incredible. It is.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to. Because here's the thing, right? Because it's true. It's so true. And I wish every day that, 15-year-old me had what I have today,
Yeah.
have had what I had 5 years down the line. But she didn't. And I think that is one of the key reasons why I am today the way I am. So every chapter in my life or every event in my life where I felt like this is so horrible, I'm grateful for it today.
Right.
I am really, really grateful for it. Even though it hurts, sometimes that pain is, and I don't want this to get misconstrued or misunderstood, but sometimes those things that hurt us so much, they really show us something that we really need to see.
Right.
And today I have a community that I can actually say that, you know what, this is what I've been through. And if you're someone who is going through something like that, there is light at the end of the tunnel. There really, really is. I never thought 15-year-old me had no dreams, Annette. She didn't know that she didn't ever think that she'd be able to break out of the cycle. She didn't think she would be alive. That's one thing. And I'm grateful for that every day. She didn't think she was going to be alive. She didn't think she was going to be able to find love, because after, and here's the sad thing, right? When you've been abused and you have all these mental disorders, you become in this, you get in this ball of self negativity, everything negative, 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 that you just have a really hard time maintaining anything healthy in the future if you don't heal. And I began having horrible relationships that were just going nowhere, and they would just hurt me, if not the same amount as my parents did. But today I'm in a healthy life. I manifested that, and I'm proud of that. I manifested, beauty out of all the chaos that I've been through. And I think if I can do it, and I was just 15 when I did that, there are people today, God forbid, they're going through much worse things. All I can say is that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And even if you feel like you can't, the universe works in magnificent ways. And before you even know it, you will do it. You will be there. So yeah.
That's incredible. Oh my gosh. You're such an incredible person. God has definitely worked through you, and I can totally appreciate what you said about when you're in that dark place and you don't think there's any light at the end of the tunnel. There is. It's just so hard to see it. We just need to reach out to someone else who's been there to remind us of that.
Yeah.
It's so hard. But oh my gosh, you have made such a different life for yourself, and you're smiling. You're actually like in a happy place now, and it's hard to see any happy through trauma, but it's there.
Yeah,
it teaches.
It is
so much.
It really, really is. And the most important thing about this journey is that I wasn't afraid. And when I felt afraid, I knew that I was doing the right thing. When you're in that situation where you're super scared, you don't know what's going to happen now, because like, what is life going to give you now? But that fear is allowed me to just really hold myself together. And I think that's why I feel like we need to be so attuned with our emotions. We shouldn't let anything that we feel just float away, because once we do that at situations like this, no matter how small or how big, we're going to want to wish that we were attuned with that, to just go with our gut and go like, oh, it's making me scared. Maybe this is just going to be a new beginning, stepping into a new unknown, and I'm just going to learn my way through it. Because, when you've been through something that hurt you so much to the point that it really, I wouldn't say changed you, but it taught you that valuable lesson that made up a good chunk of you. Moving forward, all you can think is that I'm here today, and every step I'm going to take in life is going to be for the positive. I'm going to put faith into myself. And I think that's the most important thing about this journey, to find yourself again and to, put faith in yourself. Not like, it's secondary to put faith in everything else, but faith in yourself that you are going to get through whatever comes next. Because if you've been through that, honey, you're going to get through everything in life. So yeah, that's what got me through. And I think that's what gets any wounded healer through.
You're so right. Oh my gosh. So you're an author.
Yeah.
You wrote a book. Is it about your story? Tell us what it's about and what it's called.
So it's at the publishing stages.
Okay.
I'm a poet-based author, and yes, it is about my story. It's about my journey. It's basically um, my life in the representation of colors of the rainbow. It's called Hues of Her, and it basically takes every part of my life and relates it with the different shades of colors in the rainbow and how those colors connect and the energies that were felt in those moments and how everything I've been through till this point makes sense and how every energy, every color wave of that stage till this stage makes sense. It was meant to be.
That's
So, yeah.
incredible. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see that. I wow. So you also mentioned something else about music.
Mm-hmm.
At how you found other forms of healing is through music and then through the poetry and all that. Tell us.
Yes. So, music has been there first most all the time throughout everything. It got me through my dark days. It got me through my down days. It got me through the happiest days. Um, Music was something that really made me feel like I can be myself. I had this space. I created a space where I can really be myself. And it was just that thing. It made me feel so in touch with the universe. It made me feel so in touch with the world, the inner world in me and the outer world. When I began, getting into music, it was all self-taught. I just picked up on a keyboard. I picked up on the guitar. I picked up on writing. It wasn't like someone had to teach me because I just went into the music room one day, and this was me, I think 11 years old. I just went into the music room of my school one day and I just started playing, and I was like, oh, I can play, you know? And I just took that and I used it as a grounding method for myself every time I would feel like, oh, something's going to happen. I'm going to get an anxiety attack, or I'm going into my rabbit hole because of my depression. I would just use that to ground myself. That sort of made a bridge for me into poetry because I was also into writing. Um, and as I honed, my skill of writing, I began realizing that the way I use my words is very intimate, very intricate, and it really pierces even my own soul when I read back my work. And it made me realize that I could do something about it, and I could perhaps talk about my journey, talk about my story, without the gore details and the heartbreak, but still in a way I could weave it in a way that it's still beautiful and it still reaches the next soul. So yeah.
I love that. The power of words is so we just underestimate it. We're so afraid to put it on paper, but you just never
Yeah.
realize how powerful that really can be, whether it is through music, the lyrics, or just in a poem or anything. So I love hearing that people are using that as a form of therapy because you just don't know how powerful that
Yeah.
is. I love that. So what is some advice you can give to someone right now that's going through trauma that just does not see a way out? What can they do? What should they see?
The first most thing that I would say is that you need to find your space. And if you can't find it, create one, because you need that space. You need wherever, you want to call it your happy place or your grounding place, whatever you name it, you need to create a space for yourself where you can just, turn down the volume of everything that's going around you, even if it's for those 5 seconds of your life. And you need to just focus on you, focus on your breathing, focus on, you know your skin, focus on your hair, focus on your smile. Look at yourself often, you know. Try to look beyond. If you have bruises, try to look beyond your bruises. Try to look beyond the wounds in your head. Try to look beyond the pictures that you're seeing of yourself today, because you were beautiful then, you are beautiful now, you will be beautiful forever. It's just how we see ourselves. So once you have that space, you're ready to do some healing. And healing can come to you however the universe and you connect. For me, it was music and writing, and I'm pretty sure not one size fits all. And that's what I do with my clients as well. It could be, going for walks. It could be doing exercise. It could be painting, whatever it is that, calls out to you. Use that and try to bridge it with whatever you're thinking. Because when you're in trauma and you don't see a way out, you need to constantly recycle whatever's going inside you. You have to let all of it out, so there is space for more. Hold space for yourself, for everything that's going to come the next day, and have enough space for also thinking positively. And you're not going to be able to do that if you don't recycle what you're feeling, especially the negative thoughts. So once you've created that space and you've chosen something that's going to help you heal, you're going to begin to realize that this is not the end. And it's never going to be the end, because you make your life. You write the lines of your life. And the universe knows it. The universe hears you. And you just have to, make that promise to yourself, that self that you are in right now, that you will try harder to get out of this. And it will all work out.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. I learn something new every day, and I'm just listening to your words. I'm like, yes.
I'm so glad that you feel that. I'm so glad that my words can bring this positivity, because they come from nowhere but my heart. And it's like every time I speak, I'm literally giving a piece of my heart to whoever I'm having the conversation with. So thank you. I'm glad that we have the same energy and that you feel what I'm really saying, because sometimes, that gets lost in conversation. And I'm so glad, like one healer from another, that we have that. So I'm grateful for you.
Oh, no, I'm grateful for you. This has been incredible. And yeah, like I said, I'm sitting here and I'm letting all these words just like get into my soul, because it's so true and it's so powerful, and you don't realize it. So thank you so much for still being here on earth today and for doing what you're doing, because it's a blessing. So I love it. Where can people find you? Because they need to find you.
Thank you so much, Annette. You make my heart so full, and I mean that in the most positive sense. People can find me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, Sway Sings, SWEYSINGS, and there is my link tree on my Instagram bio if they need to find me anywhere else. For example, my site, if they want to get in touch with me for coaching or therapy, they can get through that. So yeah, these are the two main places.
Great. Thank you so much. You guys, I'm going to put that in the show notes. Please make sure you refer to the podcast guide, because it's going to have everything in there, so you can find her, so you can talk to her, so you can love on her, because this is beautiful. She's a beautiful soul. So gosh, thank you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me, Annette. This was such a pleasure. It was such a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much for allowing me into your space. It means a ton to me.
Absolutely.
All we need is a little understanding. Walk a mile in their shoes. And if we keep our hearts open-minded, we'll enjoy this wild ride called life. And if we keep our enjoy this wild ride called life.
Thank you for listening to the Truths We Hide podcast, created and founded by your host, Annette, the founder of A Wild Ride Called Life. Also, a big thank you to all of our sponsors for each and every episode that is aired. We have so much support from them and all of our listeners. You can find more information at www.awildridecalledlife.com.